I'm joined by a good friend in church, Thanney Pyper, who is a builder by trade. It's good to see you, and I want to talk to you about a life-changing experience that happened in the autumn of 2016.
2016,
2016,
yes.
4 years ago already.
Wow.
And you had the opportunity to travel to Cali, Colombia. What exactly to do?
Well, originally, would you believe, my first trip was to go and put in a few toilets because there was 150 children and their helpers. They had one toilet. So I thought, easy peasy. Being an experienced builder, that's easy thing to do. So away I went over to do that, and it ended up, I actually closed the building down because it was unsafe.
And what building was that exactly?
Where
do the children
This was actually a lady called Ana Bustos. Now, this has nothing to do with El Abrigo, but Henrik and them would help them out. And their building was actually, it was an old converted warehouse. But unfortunately, the foundations were shot totally. There was nothing below them, so the whole thing was going, and then that was it. We closed it up. I have to say I was annoyed, because obviously being self-employed, if you're not working, you're not earning. Went the whole way to Colombia to close a building down. Charles, that was devastating to me, the fact I couldn't do anything. Was I cross with God? I would say yes, because why go the whole way over there, close a building down? Sure, anyone could have done that. And it was only during that I'd done a little bit of work for El Abrigo then on their church, put a bit of a roof on for them.
Can you maybe tell us what El Abrigo is?
Oh, sorry, that's Henrik that comes over here quite a few times. He has set a church.
Links with Henrik, of course.
Yes, Henrik, that is actually the whole tie-in with the whole thing. And that's the reason I've been going to Colombia, because I met Henrik really the first time in 2016 when he was over. Paul Shields always organised that. So we got together and had a chat and just heard the things that he was doing, and how little resources they have for doing things. So I thought, well, okay, we'll give it a go. But on that trip, when I was over there, I even spoke to Henrik about it. And he says, well, all I do is when things don't go right, I just go and I say, what do you want me to do? Wherever to go. And the only thing that I will say to that is careful what you asked for, Charles, because the answer I got back was not the answer I was looking for. The answer I got back was, you're going to come back and you're going to come 3 times. Now, I can remember that as well. And each of my trips were 3 weeks. So that's 3 different visits. And you're going to open a new building on the date you closed the old building down. I thought, right, okay. It's hard when you've been a Sunday school teacher for 30 years. You tell about the miraculous things that has happened and try and teach the children. But when that actually happens to you, it's like a new dawn. You think, wow, there is something else to this, It's because a lot of the times we seem to think that God's confined to the history books because we're reading out of the Bible, but that was needed back then. We don't need it now because we have all our medicines, we have all our doctors, And yet when you go over there, there's none of that. And if one of them is sick, like if you had a bad headache, I can't go to church with a bad headache. See over there, what's the first thing they want to do? Go to a church and ask their pastor to pray for them. So, and God answers that. And he does that all the time. So I arrived there the end of March 2017. And there's photos there, we can show you a few of them. And I walked up onto this flat roof. Now this is on the 3rd floor. And I looked around and I thought, my goodness, what am I going to do here? Like, I have to do what? And you see, when I look back, my problem then was, how am I going to do all this? Now, the reason I've sort of trying to bring that out was the fact that because as far as I'm concerned, I'm a competent builder. Anything you need done, I can turn my hand to it. Not a problem. And I went over there with the exact same attitude that I can do this, I can do that. And for that first week, well, 4 days of the first week, I pushed, I shoved, I done everything I could, and nothing would go right. Basically then, it is the rainy season, and their rainy season is like throwing buckets of water over you, so there's no, and trying to weld in conditions like that, trying to put electric on, it kept going off, and just, guys, we're going to have to do something. And the only thing I think of, we're going to lay this to the Lord. Why? Because He brought me the whole way over. He gave me this vision, and He said, I'm going to do this in X amount of time. And we threw it all up to the Lord. Now, basically, my words were, look, you brought me over here. You told me I'm going to open this building, and there's nothing done. A week is gone, and there's nothing done. So now you turn around and you show me, because I can do nothing. That next day, it rained even heavier. Now, and we went up, and right, okay. So went up onto the building, connected the electric. Now, over there, unfortunately, they're 110. The equipment I took was all 240 volt, which means you have to splice 2 wires together to get up to 240. And every time we tried to do that and a bit of rain come on, everything just shut down. From that date, every time we connected the electric until we turned it off, never once did it short out. You're not supposed to weld when it's raining. Now, through the rainy season, we were able to weld. There was nobody getting electrocuted. You weren't even getting what you call a jab, as when the whole thing earths. After 2 days, now remember, 4 days of this I spent doing nothing. 2 days of it, we had the entire roof trusses all made up. To give you an idea, each truss had 62 different cuts in metal to be done, and there was 5 of those trusses made in 2 days. Now, I do building over at home. Even with the full workforce, if I take that down to a manufacturer, I would probably get it 10 days later, yet in 2 days. And it was then I suddenly realized, why didn't I go and say, Lord, you do all this and then you tell me what to do, rather than I am going to do this. Once that my arrogance was put to the side, which it had to be, from that period on, everything that went to be done was done. People that I didn't even know, but later we had to meet, we met. And then when I come back and told some people, say, I wasn't that lucky, you know. And I think, no, because we prayed about this. So we're asking God, God answers, and because He has answered, it's luck. I said, well, do you not think prayer comes into this somewhere? And when you do, I have found, Charles, that when you do specific prayer, as in if there's something that's troubling you, you throw it up. And honestly, you get an answer. Every morning I'm up about 5:30, 5:45. I take the dog out for a walk. We're out for maybe an hour or something like that. That's my time to be alone. And that's my time that no matter what it is, should it be work, should it be health-wise, should it be financially, everything, I just throw it up there. The way I'm sitting talking to you at the moment is the way I speak to God. And you see, before I come into that field, I feel so light on my feet. All the things that had been weighing me down, I'm going to do this, and I have that thing to do, and I haven't got time and it all just dissipates.
Well, in this service, I've been talking about being poor in spirit, and that means that we need to rely totally on His resources. So this is a wonderful illustration. Mind you, you made life really difficult for yourself because you went out to Cali, Colombia, for one of your visits with a broken hand, and that's not very useful to be a builder.
You're quite right. Yes, I can remember that one. Now, would you believe that was going to be the final stages of the building. In other words, all the finishing touches, where whether you're right or left-handed, you need both hands. 2 weeks before I was due to go out, I shattered the 2 bones across the back of my hand. They put it in plaster, and they said they're going to put plates and screws in it. And I said, well, actually, I'm going to Colombia in 2 weeks. And they said, well, you're going to have to keep this on. I said, well, I can't work with that on. He says, but you can't work. I said, well, I have things to do. So I know it sounds as though I'm arrogant and stubborn, but because the Lord had done so much, Charles, and when he does that for something that you're involved in, you don't think this is so, he has obviously done everything for you. He has prepared everything. He has even put people in places for you to meet, total strangers. And yet you meet them and they're the very person that you needed to talk to because of things that's happened after it. So it's the same with the hand. And I said, look, I have to take this off because I could not work with that on, because there's even a photo of it, plaster from there to there, stuck on a sling. Well, you can imagine that. So eventually they agreed to turn around and make up a splint to keep these 2 fingers straight. And they did tell me whenever I come back, they would probably have to put a plate over the entire back of the hand and put screws to keep these fingers and knuckles, because the whole hand would be deformed. I said, well, okay, if that's what you tell me, and so I had to sign a disclaimer that it wasn't their negligence that would cause this to my hand. To cut a long story short, there's the hand that was broken. Every single finger works. In fact, was up with the consultant. They've taken an X-ray and they're asking, is this the same hand that was broken? There's not one bone out of place, nothing. The fillings, everything is in every single finger. I just knew that he was not going to allow me to go out there and do his work being incapacitated in any way.
Just a couple of final questions, Thanney. The building, to go back to it, remind us, how is that now being used? You mentioned
so
the children.
What that is for, we are now able to cater for 350 street children. They had no areas to go out and play in other than in the street, and that's the reason they're in there, to keep them off the street. So this is one big room. It's about the width of the church sanctuary here and maybe about halfway down. That's the size of it. So it's a good size. And it's air conditioned, it's fully insulated. So unlike anything they've ever been in, because there's nothing but pure heat over there. Along with that now, on a Sunday, this is a very, very unchurched area, is about the easiest way to explain it. So on a Sunday now, El Abrigo actually run a service on a Sunday out of that same building, something they were never able to do before. Originally, I thought it was just for the kids, but God had other ideas. So from that, it's the fact that now I believe they have over 40 people attending that church, something that was never there before. Everybody thinks it's all about Thanney Pyper. Well, I have to say, no, it's not. It's all about God's big plan for each and every one of us, Charles. It's not, but he's a builder and he can, everybody has got a gift in some way or another. There's people over there that knows nothing about building, but are still going and still doing the Lord's work. Over here, we have a committee set up to help to organise, because at the moment, John Harrow, who's been over here, but a lot of people don't even, which one was he? He'd been the quiet one in the background. We support him, so he's in full-time ministry in El Abrigo. And this happened since January, before lockdown. And Henrik, would you believe, has been stuck in Holland from February, still to this date, can't get back to Colombia. Is this God putting things in place? You can answer that for yourself.
Well, you could be talking about this for the next few hours. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And Thanney, I look at you and I see a man really on fire, a man who's been touched deeply, and a man who is being used by God by being dependent on him. And it's been really good of you to share. So thank you.
No, thank you very much for the opportunity, Charles.